Welcome to episode 687 of the Entertainment 2.0 podcast, brought to you by thedigitalmediazone.com. I'm Josh Pollard.
And I'm Richard Gunther, and this is the show that puts you in control of your favorite movies, music, shows, and games. And Josh, I'm sorry I missed last week. Had a busy, crazy week. Wasn't feeling great. Also have a boo-boo. I cut my finger while I was assembling some shelves, so that just added to my drama last week.
This isn't like a laser engraving or 3D printing injury. You didn't laser engrave a tattoo on your finger?
Doing something stupid and assembling sheet metal shelves, not sheet metal, but steel shelves without wearing work gloves. So, yeah.
I kind of like this idea of a laser engraved tattoo, though. Can you do that?
Yeah, no, that's not happening. Absolutely not happening. But we should move on because we have
recommended.
a lot to talk about tonight.
We do. Richard is going to rant about some naming stuff this week. The On 4K Plus that we talked a little bit about last week is now officially available. I mean, frankly, that's the whole news story. Spotify is simplifying buying audiobooks. The Trump strategies may result in the removal of ebooks and audiobooks from your local library. We'll have more details there. Sony has updated pretty much the best ANC headphones on the market, and Computex is going on. So we have announcements from MSI with a new gaming handheld and Razer and Asus with new gaming laptops. So lots of stories in every segment tonight. We also have some feedback. Some of this came into our email inboxes. Entertainment20@thedigitalmediazone.com is that email address, and some on Blue Sky. All of our contact information is at the end of the show, so hang on until the end or go over to thedigitalmediazone.com to get all of that contact info. So, Richard, why don't you kick off the first piece of listener feedback?
Yeah, so by being the first person to read the feedback from this person, I have to figure out how to pronounce his name on Blue Sky. I think it's going to be Skis WM.
I think it's Ski Swim.
Ski Swim. Okay, well, in any event, this person says for Richard's 300 cable boxes in his castle in the Carolinas, why not switch to a service like YouTube TV? Pay for unlimited streams and put a box of some sort on each TV. Create an email specific to the rental property to pay for the monthly YouTube TV fee. So, at first glance, this seems like a good idea. And I did think about this. In fact, I investigated a couple different streaming cable alternatives. And two things held me back here. Yes, I would need to set up a separate email address for that. But if I did that, there's a possibility that a logged in user could mess around with settings on the account. And I certainly wouldn't want that. Even though it's not my own account, it's dedicated to the house, I wouldn't want to risk that. I wouldn't want to have to deal with that because then I have to troubleshoot it remotely. Speaking of troubleshooting, what if you get logged out? Now you have this account that has to be logged in, kind of like my TVs. Then we'd be adding another one, a separate one for the TV service that would have to be logged in. And what if someone just accidentally logs me out from that? It's harder to log someone out of the TV because it's hard to do anything on a Samsung TV. But it's fairly easy to log out of YouTube TV. And if someone did that, then they wouldn't be able to get in. And then I'd again have to make sure the password is available for them and they could log in again. And now they have the password. And now they could really go in and mess with the account if they wanted to. So I opted not to go this route. Funny enough, shortly after sending that to me and me sending a reply back, if I remember correctly, I think he replied later saying, and my parents just got logged out of their YouTube TV account.
Yeah.
Right.
And he had to be the tech support guy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Clearly illustrated the problem with this approach. Okay. Well, it was a nice idea. Definitely a thought-provoking idea. He also sent another piece of feedback. This was in response to the news story last week about the standalone ESPN service. He pointed out that while that ESPN service does give you access to a great many sports games, including lots of college football, he says the issue with the streaming service is for fans of the Big Ten. Those games are on Fox, CBS, and NBC. They don't have any games on ESPN unless they're playing a team that ESPN has the rights to, like an ACC or an SEC game at their home stadiums. So, yeah, that's a really good call out. The ESPN service doesn't include the Big Ten. Big Ten actually has their own network in addition to those games being on local networks. For the most part, I wonder if this is actually new, because it seems to me like a lot of Michigan games were on ESPN last year, but maybe I'm wrong about that. But yeah, that is a really good call out for Big Ten fans. If you are, I was going to say if you're in the upper Midwest, but college football has gone insane, and now you could be in Washington or California and be rooting for your local Big Ten team. So really, this is just illustrating the continued problem that we have with sports rights across all of the different providers out there.
Oh, yeah.
And this doesn't really help that much to solve that problem. I mean, it doesn't really solve it at all. But if most of the stuff you want to watch is on ESPN, it does help solve for that.
All right. Well, we have one more piece of feedback, and this is a follow-up from Tim, who had previously suggested that I look into Synology Photos. And if you remember, my concern there is that I would have to have a folder called Photo, singular, and it would have to be a share dedicated to the Synology Photos app. Can't name it what I want it to be, can't be under anything else, and so on. So he responded back and said, "Hi, Richard. I just wanted to let you know that while reviewing the settings on my Synology Photos shared folder just now, I discovered that while the location of the folder is fixed, the name of the folder is editable." Bum, bum, bum. So
there you go.
If that's the case, and I can edit the name of the folder and the Synology Synology Photos app will still recognize it, that solves my problem. So I need to do a little bit of research. I am kind of swamped right now, so I don't see this happening until, I don't know, sometime in June, frankly. But this is a great suggestion and really good to know. I will absolutely look into this. So thanks again for not only the suggestion, but your follow-up, Tim.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you to all of you for writing in with your great feedback. We love that aspect of the show. Again, all of our contact info at the end of the show. So, Richard, I have a feeling you would like to talk about our first news story.
Yeah.
Or maybe you wouldn't like to talk about
I'd
it.
rather that we didn't have to talk about this. But those now in charge of HBO and its streaming property, Max, remember this used to be Warner Brothers. Now it's this Warner Brothers Discovery thing that's separate from AT&T, and it's just, it's hard to even keep track of who's in charge these days. Well, this company makes that so obvious because after, what was it, a year ago, rebranding HBO Max to just Max and in their announcements that they are profitable now and had one of their best quarters ever with this service, they're now changing the name back to HBO Max. Oops. We caused confusion. You know what causes confusion? Changing the name constantly.
Yeah.
We had HBO. We had HBO Now. We had HBO Go. Then we had HBO Max. Then we had Max. You're not giving people a moment to even catch up. And so a year later now, you're going to change it back to HBO Max. Seriously, who is doing your branding? I don't get it. This is so unnecessary and so absurd. And their numbers prove that it's unnecessary. They probably got some feedback from people. This is confusing. Why did you change it? You know what? You learn it once. You figure it out once. It's
I don't know.
Peacock.
I feel like I spent all of the last year saying, oh, that show that I'm watching, it's on Max. You might remember that it used to be called HBO Max. Like, I felt like I always had to clarify what Max was for people. So I'm happy that they're changing it back. HBO Max is the right name. If you're not going to call it HBO, then call it HBO Max and just be done and never change it again. What I really hope they don't do you remember what else they did when they rolled out the name change for Max?
Well, they consolidated everything into it, didn't they? Including Discovery and everything.
Also made a new app.
Oh, yeah. So, good point. So please don't make us go download a new app again.
And have to log in again.
Because that would be stupid.
Yes.
This is already stupid.
Yes.
That would be stupid again. And yeah, this is like out of the playbook of Microsoft. Fitting for this show.
Right. The next version of the service will be named HBO Max R2 Service Pack 2.
Yeah. And remember, this is the company that for years was trying to figure out how to use the Warner Brothers brand for their streaming service, because they so thought that brand had more clout than anything else. They don't understand branding.
No. HBO has always been the brand.
It is, but this is more than HBO. So I think this is more confusing, but you and I we know that we can disagree on something and still be friends.
So you don't want it to be called HBO Max?
No, it should stay Max.
Oh.
I had no problem with the name.
Huh. Okay.
No problem at all.
I like this better because the Max part to me is like, well, HBO is the crap you care about. And the Max is just everything else that we're going to have on here.
Maybe you feel that way, but people who like Discovery content, like me, this is where I go for Discovery content.
But do you care more about the Discovery content than the HBO content?
Not more, but I probably watch it about equally.
Okay.
So
That's fair.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we can both at least agree that you shouldn't change the name of your service every year.
No. Again, Microsoft's playbook.
Exactly. All right. Well, our other video story is, again, as I said at the top of the show, the Walmart's branded on 4K plus streaming device, that 4K Google TV powered streaming device is now actually available. Walmart just doesn't know how to actually officially release products. Now it's actually available. You can buy it online. You can probably find it in your stores now. Again, this is their mid-tier 4K streamer device. So it's 4K with Dolby Vision and all of that. And it's only $30. So that makes it $10 cheaper than the competing Roku and $20 cheaper than the 4K Fire TV. So
race to the bottom on pricing.
And I'm gonna say, my favorite streaming OS. Some people like Roku better. I don't know that anybody out there likes Amazon Fire TV better.
Well, it's funny. I haven't seen the new and improved version that now has the navigation on the top.
Ooh, fancy.
Again.
Yeah. I don't think top nav makes sense.
I really don't care. Let's move on.
Let's move on. Audio stories. So let's start with Spotify. But actually, to talk about this story, it actually starts with Epic Games. And you're like, what? Epic Games, the makers of Fortnite, years ago, it feels like decades ago, started a lawsuit with Apple accusing them of monopolistic behavior in the App Store, because if you want to sell anything in-app or in-game, Apple gets a 30% cut. And after years and years of legal battles,
and going to court repeatedly and saying, wah!
Apple lost. Wah, wah, wah. They're going to be crying forever. Well,
no, that was Epic that was saying wah, but now Apple's saying wah.
Apple would say wah as an appeal. And yeah, right. There was lots of wah. But in the end, Apple lost and the rest of us win. And this time around, Spotify was ready for this decision to come down. And basically, as soon as the judges ruled in Epic Games' favor, Spotify released an update to their app, to the App Store, that now enables you to purchase audiobooks directly from within the Spotify app. You can also, if you are a Spotify premium subscriber and you've run out of your 15 hours of audiobook playback, you can top up your subscription and get more hours of playback and just pay for it right inside of the app. Super easy now. Instead of before, if you wanted to buy an audiobook in the Spotify app, it would redirect you. Like, you would have to go out to their website.
It wouldn't even redirect you because you weren't allowed to redirect people there.
You're right.
You had to just know, because they couldn't even tell you that you could do that. You had to know that you could go to the website and buy it on the website, and then it would be available for you in the app. And now it's integrated. Now, have you tried this on your tablet at all?
No.
Okay. I have not tried it either, but as I understand it, the way they've done this is pretty ingenious. Technically, I believe what Apple lost was the ability to prevent people from giving you a link to pay for things outside of the app itself. And so the way that some of these companies are implementing this is that they're seamlessly launching a browser inside the app and giving you what feels like an integrated purchasing experience, but you're actually doing it on the web.
Now I kind of want to try this quick because I have my iPad here.
So it's kind of cool. I don't know if you have the latest version or not. Downloading apps isn't really good radio, but I do think that, I think that this was completely unreasonable on Apple's part. Not the 30%. I don't have any problem with their publishing fee. I've never had a problem with that. And they even ducked it to 15 for certain vendors over a certain size or under a certain size. I forget which that was. So the issue, though, was that they wouldn't let you even let people know that where they could buy something outside of the app, let alone take you there to go do it, which was just absurd.
Yeah. Well, I must either have an old version, or maybe this works differently for different books or for premium subscribers. I don't see an option there. So
okay.
I don't know. But hey, now you've got the option and it's like a lot easier. So that's really nice for users.
Yep.
Okay, so that's the good news story in our audio section. We've got two good news stories. The middle one, the second one, it's not a good one. So people may or may not be aware that we got a new president at the beginning of the year. and he's been changing a lot via executive order. And one of the things that the Trump administration did was went after the Institute of Museum and Library Services, an organization that probably most people have never even heard of before. It's pretty small, but through executive order, he pretty much fired almost everybody and drastically, suspended massive millions and millions of dollars worth of grants to the organization. Okay, why does that matter? Well, about half of this organization's $300 million budget goes towards sending money to state libraries. And then the states take that money and distribute it to local libraries. What do the local libraries then do with that money? Well, they pay people, obviously. They also provide various services, like offering audiobooks and ebooks and other digital content through services like Libby and Hoopla and all of those things. Well, these cuts, they're impacting all of these things. Libraries across the country are making lots of big changes, including cutting staff and ending a lot of these programs. And unfortunately, the ebook and audio lending is a rather expensive proposition. So, for example, the state of Mississippi has already completely ended their partnership with Hoopla. So, if you're like me and you basically depend on your library for your audiobook or ebook listening needs, this may go away very soon for you. There are states that are suing and stuff like that, and this is in the courts, but it's the matter is basically frozen right now, which means these libraries are not getting money right now. So unless this gets taken care of and reversed by the courts really soon, all of these libraries are going to have to start making decisions basically immediately. And apparently, leasing digital content like this is much more costly than libraries just getting physical books.
That makes no sense to me.
Right.
I don't understand that at all. That's to me, that just speaks of publisher greed. Because I can't understand how you justify charging more for a license to a book than for the physical property. I don't get it.
Yeah, I imagine that some of this is also on the services, like the Hooplas and the Libbies and all of that, because they have to maintain the services. So there's obviously some aspect of this is paying those services to stay available.
Well, yeah, sure. But if you're selling your books through Amazon or a physical bookstore, you're also losing margin in the retail, in the move from wholesale to retail. So I don't buy this. I mean, I'm not saying I don't believe this. Absolutely. This sounds like the kind of BS that I hate in business, and that wouldn't surprise me, but it seems ridiculous.
It does seem ridiculous and really surprising, because it's not like if you go to your library, you instantly have access to all of these things, because you actually still have the same constraints that the libraries put on you with physical books. If you want a physical book from your library, they only have so many copies. And the same is true with ebooks and audiobooks.
Right.
So it's not like they're paying more to have an unlimited supply.
Right.
So I really don't understand how this licensing and these cost contracts work for it to be so much more expensive.
Yep. But makes no sense to me. But it's understandable. I mean, particularly if you had a choice between, all right, are we going to cut off services or are we going to let yet another person go? Clearly, you cut off services, which can be a temporary move.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so hopefully this all gets straightened out. Hopefully not very many more people lose their jobs. Hopefully no one else loses their jobs. But man, I hope this gets ironed out soon, because I want librarians to keep having jobs, and I want to still have access to audiobooks and ebooks through my public library. So, all right, let's end the audio news with a better story, and that is Sony has some new headphones, the WH-1000 XM6. The easier way to remember these are, it's the Sony 1000 and it's the M6. Like, we just kind of erase some of those other letters, and this is how most people talk about them. It's the sixth version of these. The M5s came out a couple years ago. When they came out, they were basically the best over-ear noise-canceling headphones available. Now we've got a new version, the XM6, and pretty much everything is better. Almost everything is better about it. The active noise cancellation is greatly improved and is far more dynamic than it used to be. Battery life unchanged, despite the fact that there's more happening here from the new processor that's in there, but it must be a more efficient processor. Because they still get 30 hours of battery life if you have ANC turned on and 40 hours if you turn ANC off. Another change that is actually new, it's kind of ridiculous that this is a new feature on these, but you can charge them while using them. The XM5s and previous models wouldn't work while you were charging. Really, really dumb. They also went back and added foldable ear cups, making them a lot more portable to fit into your bag when you're traveling. Those are all good. So what's the bad thing? The price is going up. These are now $450, which, seems like a lot. Like, it seems like, I don't know, maybe it's just because we've been doing the show so long, Richard. Like, 15 years ago, the best headphones that you were buying for this were the Bose Quiet Comforts.
Yeah.
And they were like $300.
Right.
And now the best in class is $450. It's $50 more than last time. Like, I'm not surprised to see a price increase right now. Everything is getting more expensive right now. But wow, that's a lot of money for headphones. But you know what it's less than? AirPods Max.
AirPods Max.
Right. Which basically is still the same AirPods Max since they were introduced 5 years ago.
No. Now you can connect a cable to them.
Oh, right. Because they added USB-C, right? Yes. Oh, man. Yeah. So they're still $100 cheaper than the Apple equivalent, and they're better. So there you go. Sony WH-1000 XM6 headphones. Okay, so let's jump into some gaming news. So I'll just take a break and let Richard cover this for you.
All right. So you know how much I love gaming. Okay, I'm not even going to go any further.
I was really hoping you might run with that. Okay, so all of this is a huge trade show that's been going on. It's called Computex. It is a big trade show for computer announcements. And so we're going to focus on the computer announcements that we care about around here, and that's gaming PCs. So first
what
up,
the news was for me, Josh? That Computex still runs.
Exist.
Right? That it's still a thing.
Yeah. When did it, do you have any idea when it started?
I have no idea.
It was like at least the 90s, maybe the 80s.
I think we were kids.
Right. Yeah. It has been around forever, and it still is. So it's fun times. I was really hoping for lots of handheld gaming announcements. We got one, and that's from MSI. They have a new version of their handheld. It is the Claw A8 BZ2EM. Like, these names are terrible, as you kind of expect. This new MSI Claw, it's still the A8, so it's still the 8-inch screen. It's basically the same sort of form factor as the MSI Claw 8 AI Plus, announced and released a few months ago. The main difference is the processor. Instead of using that Intel processor, this uses the Intel Ryzen Z2 Extreme. Emphasis on the 2 there, because there are lots of devices out there, like the Legion Go that I'm recording this on right now, that has the Ryzen Z1 Extreme processor. You might be thinking, but the Z2 Extreme isn't new, Josh. There was that Legion Go S with the Z2 Extreme. No, that's not out yet either, because the Z2 Extreme processor isn't actually available yet. The thing that was in that Legion Go S that came out earlier that was largely panned by reviewers, that was the Z2 Go, which is a much less powerful processor, or maybe weaker processor would be the easier way to describe it. Basically, everything else about this, other than the processor, is the same as what you're getting in the Intel-powered device. So it's got the 120 hertz refresh rate on the 1920 by 1200 screen. It comes with up to 24 gigabytes of RAM and 1 terabyte of SSD storage. So that all sounds great. You're wondering, cool, how much is this going to cost and when can I buy it? I don't have answers to either of those two important questions because, like I said, the Z2 Extreme isn't actually available yet. And maybe that's why MSI was the only one announcing their device. Maybe everybody else is waiting for the Z2 to actually be available so that they can put a price on these things and a date and start shipping them. So I don't know. Here's hoping for maybe later this summer we'll be getting some of these. Maybe all of these companies are holding off because you surely don't want to release these within weeks of the Nintendo Switch 2 going on sale, because you're just going to get obliterated there. So maybe wait. And hopefully we'll see this and more devices later in the year with the Z2 Extreme. All right, so that's it for the gaming handhelds. What about laptops? Well, there are really two main ones that we want to talk about here. One from Razer, I guess actually three. So Razer has finally announced all of the details for their Razer Blade 14. The 16 is kind of their main Razer Blade, and they gave us all of the details for the 16 at CES. But the Razer 14 is now fully fleshed out, and it's mostly cool, but they are really trying to continue to be the Apple of the gaming laptop ecosystem. These things are expensive. You pay more for the design and everything that you get out of that. And they're even kind of doing silly things with their configurator. If you pick certain things like a different video card option or a different storage, then it forces you into other things. Like if you want a 2 terabyte SSD, well, then you have to have the 64 gigabytes of RAM and the most expensive video card.
And the leather seats.
Right. And the moonroof. Right. Like, it doesn't make any sense. So I think the model that most people would get, probably should get, would have so the the Blade 14, it only comes with AMD Ryzen processors. And in this case, you're going to want to go with the Ryzen AI 9 365 processor. The display on it is a QHD Plus, because it's 16 by 10, 120 hertz OLED. So you're getting a really beautiful display with a higher refresh rate. I would pick the option with the GeForce 5070 card in it. Notice I said 5070, not 5070 Ti. So this only includes 8 gigs of RAM on that video card. Get it with 32 gigs of RAM. Get it with the 1 terabyte of storage, I guess. Otherwise, you're going to be paying out the nose for everything else. And that laptop will set you back $2,700, which already seems like a lot for an 8 gig 5070 in this, and only a terabyte of storage. If that sounds like a lot just hearing about it on its own, well, let me tell you about the Asus Zephyrus G14.
Wait, before you go there, I mean, you've seen these. You've seen the 16 up close, haven't you?
Yeah. They're gorgeous.
These are beautiful, beautiful machines. Like, if I were still in the PC space, I would want this specific machine. 14 is a perfect size.
Yeah.
16 is too big for me. But man, these are absolutely gorgeous machines.
Yeah. Yeah, there are no better looking Windows laptops on the market, and that's been true for years. They're absolutely stunning. I was going to say maybe go to a Best Buy and check them out, but I don't know. Do your Best Buys even have laptops inside of them anymore? Who knows? Maybe. Okay, so let's go on to Asus. The ROG Zephyrus G14 and G16, obviously the 14 and 16-inch laptops. The G14, it's where it's at. This also has an AMD processor. This is the Ryzen AI 9 HX 370. You'll notice that 370 is a bigger number than the 365 in the Razer Blade 14. You have multiple options here on video cards. The option I would go with here includes a 5070 Ti, which includes 12 gigs of RAM, which is far more appropriate, I think, if you're going to be buying a new higher-end-ish gaming laptop. That will run at 110 watts on the GPU. I mean, that's about what we can expect. It seems like most of what these laptop manufacturers are pushing towards the GPUs, which is unfortunate because it looks like with the 5070 and the 5070 Ti, they do really well if you just throw more and more power at them. But it's a laptop, so there are limits. So 120 watts on that 5070 Ti. This has a 3K OLED running at 120 hertz with G-Sync, 32 gigs of RAM, a 2 terabyte SSD for $2,500. So you get double the storage, a better video card for $200 less money. It seems like a no-brainer. It doesn't look as good as the Razer Blade, but
I'm like, but it's an Asus,
right?
I mean,
but it's really good, and it doesn't look hideous. Like this, if you haven't really looked at a gaming laptop since like the mid to late 2010s, when they all looked like they were trying to compete for making them look like spaceships and like crazy designs, that's not what we've got here. It's not as good as the Razer, but it's like you're not going to be embarrassed to take this out in public. And the G14 and the G16, they've really been undercutting the Razer and frankly most of the competitors for the last few years. The G14 has really been in the sweet spot for a while, especially if you want that 14-inch more portable device. They do have the G16. The 16-inch model uses Intel processors, and this is if you just need lots of power, go to the G16. This is where you can go insane with the specs. They come with Intel Core Ultra 9 processors. It has a 2.5K OLED running at 240 hertz. The model I would probably recommend has the 5070 Ti with 12 gigs of RAM, but they also offer a 5080 with 16 gigs of RAM, and even the insane 5090 with 24 gigs of RAM. You can configure the machines with 32 or 64 gigs of RAM and 2 terabyte SSD drives. Now, again, the option I would tell you to go with is take the 5070 Ti with 32 gigs of RAM, 2 terabytes of storage. It's $2,800. So if you need a 16-inch instead of a 14-inch, for, what do we say, $100 more than that Razer Blade 14, you're getting a vastly better video card, a much bigger screen with a faster refresh rate, and twice the storage for $100 more. So that's really easy. If you really want the 5080, the price goes from $2,800 to $3,600. And then if you just have to have the best, you can have that 5090. If you want to pay another $1,000 for the 5090, that laptop is going to set you back $4,600. Wow. No thanks. I'll pass.
Yikes.
5070 Ti sounding real good right about now. Okay. Well, that is it for our gaming news and really all of our news. So let's jump into what's been going on in our entertainment centers.
Yeah, so let's get back to my cable boxes down in North Carolina. I had 8 of them that I was going to return, kept 3 in the common spaces. So I have 8 boxes, pack them all up, get all the cables out of the walls because the installer apparently thought it would be a good idea to hide the power supplies for the cable boxes behind the wall.
What?
Like in the little outlet that where the cable was coming from, they also like wound up the cables and stuck the wires and the power supply for the cable box in the wall.
Is that even up to
No.
code?
No, it's not. It's absolutely
think
not.
so.
No.
Oh, Richard.
This builder. So I go to return the boxes at the local Spectrum office where I had previously exchanged a couple pretty easily. It was a pretty straightforward process. So I'm like, all right, go in the Spectrum office and nobody's in the store. 4 people behind the counter. I have to check in at a kiosk before they'll talk to me. All right. Already I'm in a bad mood. Right? Because that's just stupid.
Mm-hmm.
There's no good reason for that. So I have to check in to the kiosk and they immediately call my name and I go up to the counter and here's my 8 boxes that I'm returning. Oh, have you called Spectrum Business to let them know that you're returning these?
No, I'm standing in your friggin' office.
I'm like, right here. What are you talking about? Well, you have a Spectrum Business account. This isn't a Spectrum Business office. So you have to first coordinate with Spectrum Business to let them know that you're going to return these, and then we can accept them. We can't accept them until you've already had them taken off the account. So with my cell phone, from there, I call the number she gives me to Spectrum Business, and the person there wants to talk to her. So why I need to do this, I don't know. But
so are you like standing there with the call on speakerphone? And
yeah, holding it up on speakerphone like I'm on a reality show.
Right.
Yes. Yeah, it was ridiculous. I'm in such a bad mood at this point, and you know my tolerance for bad customer service is so low,
very low.
so low. So they eventually, between the two of them, figure out what they need to do on their respective sides to be able to let me return this. While I'm there, someone else who's apparently a Spectrum Business customer comes in with a modem. Actually, it wasn't a modem, it was a switch. And says, hey, your cable guy told me that I need to return this. I don't need this. And they didn't know what it was. Nobody there, they're like, that's not ours. It's like, no, your guy told me this is from Spectrum and I don't need it and I can return it here. Well, we don't know what that is. And I'm like standing there watching this. I'm like, it's a network switch. So she's trying to look it up. Of course, it's a network switch, but they operate like they're separate companies. They're not separate companies. They're separate divisions. By the way, speaking of companies, we didn't talk about this, but Charter, the company behind the brand Spectrum, is actually going to be merging now with Cox. So we can only expect this to get worse.
Right.
Just crazy. But they're all off my account. I'm saving over $100. And then because of that savings, I cranked up the channel packages that we offer in the house so that those TVs that do get TV won't have so many blank spots in their stupid guide since I can't take the unreceived channels off the box.
Man.
Overall, terrible experience, which is unfortunate. I used to work for Time Warner Cable before they became this. Anyway, all right. So what have I been watching? I am up to date on The Last of Us. Oh, I know you're not excited about this. What do you think of the last episode? No spoilers, but did you like it?
I've not seen episode 6.
Oh,
I have an idea. Like, I think I have a pretty good idea of what it is.
I mean, they teased.
Yeah. I'm excited about this because it was one of my favorite parts of the game.
So good. So good.
Yeah. Good.
Got to me
good
multiple times. So good.
Episodes
Loved
4
it.
and 5 have been trash.
This
is not a good show.
As somebody who didn't play the game, I totally disagree.
I don't understand. They can't figure out what they're doing with Ellie.
I think it all flows, and I agree with your assessment that you talked about last week, where you believe that they're letting the other character outshine her. I agree with that, and I think this episode makes up for that. All right, so moving on. We are also still watching The Voice. We're up to date on that. We are about an episode behind on Doctor Who, but enjoying that. We watched all of the Amazon Season 1 series, The Bondsman. This is a Kevin Bacon thing where he is basically commissioned by hell to search demons and send them back to hell. And it's gory as anything, but a lot of fun. And we just finished the first season. And I just read that 2 months after releasing this, Amazon has already canceled it. That they didn't get the numbers that they wanted from this show. In 2 months, it's a streaming show. It's going to be out there for a good while, and it could get some attention. We didn't even know about it till it was near the end.
Yeah, this is the first I've ever even heard of it.
Right, because it was not promoted well. And I generally don't think people just hang out in Amazon Video. You go there when you know that there's something cool to go watch.
Yeah.
So I don't know what they're doing over there, but I hope they rethink that decision because it was fun. I'd love to see more. All right, I finished watching The Amazing Race season 37. I couldn't be happier with the ending of this season. I'm so excited for the people that won, and all I have to say is that there's one couple there that needs some counseling. Definitely.
I mean, isn't that true of like most of the people on most reality shows?
Yeah. So to give you an idea, while I'm watching this the other night, I just decided to Google Amazing Race A-hole husband. And the Gemini response for that was, "Oh, you're talking about Jonathan so-and-so. This is..." I'm like, yep. The world agrees. I mean, just like, oh man, it was hard to watch. It was hard to watch some of these scenes, but yeah, they need some counseling. So, moving on, we finished season 3 of Welcome to Wrexham. We were way behind on that and decided to finish it because season 4 just started. So, looking forward to watching that. And I did go back and watch the revised Mythic Quest ending. I would conclude after watching that there was really no reason to revise it. The first version that's no longer available was better, even though it ended. So, yeah, weird. We also watched a movie called Queer. I think this is an independent film. It got a lot of attention because it had dude who played James Bond. What is his name? Most recent James Bond.
The blonde guy.
Blonde dude. Yeah. Anyway, was starring him. He's excellent in it. This is such a weird film. I don't know that I would recommend this to anyone. It's so weird. It's so full of confusing symbolism and just weird, but getting a lot of acclaim for some reason. It'll probably win stuff. And then finally, I finished reading The 99% Invisible City with my book club. Loved that. No big surprise. And now I'm hoping to get back to the Siren's Call. Our new book in the book club is called Do I Talk Funny? And I don't even know what that is. So I have to find out. That's it for me. How about you, Josh?
Okay. Not a ton. I did play a little bit more of Claire Obscure Expedition 33. Still absolutely loving that game. Unfortunately, I've not had anything spoiled for me in it. No movies. On the TV side, some hockey. Watched the Leafs get destroyed in Game 7. They're out now. But the hockey playoffs are still really, really good. Like I said, I watched Last of Us Season 2, Episode 5. I finished that episode, walked out to the kitchen, and said to Jen, they just keep making this dumb show dumber. I really, like, I don't think this is spoilery to say, I just don't feel like they know what they're doing with Ellie's character. They are confusing what her motivation is. They are confusing her strengths and weaknesses. There are so many problems with what they're doing in the show. I am surprised that you like it as much as you do, because it just, like, yes, there are some changes that they're making from the game. Most of them I don't care that much about, but it feels like most of the changes that they're making are actually just making it a worse TV show. Not that it's a big departure from the game, but that it is a worse TV show that is telling a different story, and it's not as good.
Okay. I don't agree.
I guess I won't say anything else. I think I watched some Dark Matter in the last week, but maybe not, because it was a very, very busy weekend. Richard, did you watch Dark Matter on Apple TV?
Have not.
Did you read the book?
No.
I love Blake Crouch. It's a good show. I'm pretty sure they've renewed the season and stuff for it, so I don't think we're watching a season that has no future. But yeah, it's well done. And then on books, I started Somewhere Beyond the Sea. I don't think I mentioned that last week.
No, I don't think so.
Oh, this is the follow-up to House on the Cerulean Sea
Right.
that I raved about last year. I'm a third of the way through it. Mostly still love it. I think there's a couple of things that are a little heavy-handed that don't really need to be. I think the first book did a really great job of being about, like, making a very obvious case for what this book was about without being heavy-handed about it. And this one, they don't do quite as good of a job, but it's still such a great story and such great writing. So, so far, still very much loving this. And Jen's already read it and said, yes, it's a great book. You're going to love this. So, that's it for what's been going on in my entertainment center. So we'll get out of here. If you have listener feedback for us, we want to hear it. You can send it to us on social media at Josh Pollard, at Richard Gunther on Mastodon. I'm Josh Pollard on Blue Sky also.
You could ask us, how can you not remember Daniel Craig?
Right, Daniel. And while you said it, I'm like, well, let me go over to Bing and search James Bond actor. And, like, it didn't even show Daniel Craig. It was showing, like, all of the other ones.
Good old Bing.
Come on, Bing. Get your life together. Yeah, so we're all over social. Email address, entertainment20@thedigitalmediazone.com. Just go to the website, www.thedigitalmediazone.com. All of our show notes are there. All of our contact information is there. All of the ways to subscribe to the show, including on YouTube, are over there. And so that's where you can find everything the easiest, because that is going to do it for episode 687. He's Richard Gunther. He's Richard Gunther. I'm not good at pointing on video. There we go. He's Richard Gunther. And I'm Josh Pollard. Thanks for listening to Entertainment 2.0. Adios.
Goodbye.